Sounds good.
Okay. We're going to do a repeat. So happy holidays to everyone. It's 1:05 and welcome to the December 20th Board of Psychology meeting. Ms. Whitney, can you please call the roll again?
Sure. Kasuga, Cervantes, Boo,
Aye.
Arbsheet,
Here.
Nystrom,
Here.
Phillips,
Here.
Rescate,
Here.
Rogers,
Here.
Tate.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Before we jump into agenda item number 2, I'd like to give Mr. Polk a few moments to explain how to earn and document your continuing professional development hours. Mr. Polk, please.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. Attending today's board meeting provides you with CPD credit under category number 1, attendance at a California December 20th, 2024, and note that we are here for the board meeting. At the end of the meeting today, I will announce how many hours will be credited for attending today's meeting. For attendees who joined, yes.
Mr. Polk, you cut out a little bit, so you might want to just restart your whole spiel. I'm sorry.
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem. Attending today's board meeting provides you with CPD credit under category number 1, attendance at a California Board of Psychology meeting. For your CPD records, please notate today's date as December 20th, 2024, and note that we are here for the board meeting. At the end of the meeting today, I will announce how many hours will be credited for attending today's meeting. For attendees who joined by phone by calling the U.S. toll number and use the access code, please send an email to the following email address, bopce@dca.ca.gov. Again, the email address is bopce, as in Board of Psychology Continuing Education, @dca.ca.gov. In the email, please provide your name, license number, and the phone number of the phone you called in from. Attendees who signed in using a computer or mobile device from the WebEx link, your attendance is automatically documented and no further information is necessary as your name and email address is recorded upon joining the meeting. For attendees who are in person at the teleconference locations, the attendance sheet, the attendance sign-in sheet provided will be the record of your attendance, so please sign in and out as needed for today's meeting. Again, at the end of the meeting today, I will announce how many hours will be credited for attending today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Polk, and thank you for repeating the information for all of us. Our next item is agenda item number 2, and this is public comment for items not on the agenda. The board may not discuss or take action on any matter raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Before I invite speakers to come forward with public comment, I'd ask individuals making comments to not discuss the specifics, including names, as to pending complaints, pending licensing applications, or pending disciplinary actions that may come before the board for decision. Such discussions are considered ex parte communications, as they could provide information to the members that is outside of the record in violation of the Administrative Procedure Act. And while there may be a desire to engage in further discussion at this time, the board may not discuss any matter at this time. And this may give the impression that we are not being responsive, but these procedures are critical to ensure the compliance with the Open Meetings Act and to avoid compromising the goals on the board, compromising the speaker's goals on the board's mission. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up public comment?
Certainly. We're opening up WebEx for public comment on this agenda item. If you would like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users will press *3 to raise your hand. Mobile users have different pages, and to find the raise hand button, you may need to tap the 3 little dots at the bottom of the screen until you find the screen with the raise hand button. Commenters will be given 2 minutes to speak, and I will give a 30-second warning. We're going to check in with our in-person locations first. Are there any members of the public who wish to make a comment at the Sacramento location?
There are no public members in the Sacramento location.
Thank you. At the Beverly Hills location?
There are no public attendees here at our location. And also, just a quick question, did you need us to say where we are when you did the roll call? I'm not sure if Dr. Phillips and I did say that.
For the
So
record, I think it's a good idea, but we'll notate it.
Seiran Fu, board member at the Beverly Hills location, posted on the agenda.
Stephen Phillips, board member at the location posted on the agenda on Wilshire Boulevard.
Thank you. And at the Reading location?
There are no attendees here, and I will follow suit with Mr. Fu. I'm here in Reading at the location listed on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And at the San Diego location?
This is Dr. Harp Sheets at the San Diego location. I have 2 public members wishing to make public comment.
Okay, and would they like to come forward now, please?
Yes.
I'll begin now. I am a psychologist licensed in California in the early 1990s and now retired. I have had the opportunity over the past 35 years to observe the evolution of the disciplinary stance of the board's enforcement unit grow from a more even-handed guidance and education of licensees who have been determined to have made minor and moderate deviations from the standard of care to an increasingly harsh, heavy-handed, and punitive one beginning in the early 2000s. I am here to implore you to take every step possible to return to the more even-handed approach it used prior to the early 2000s. While the Board of Psychology purports its mission to be the protection of the consumer, in actual practice, what I have witnessed is an ever-increasing number of psychologists whose lives and careers have been unnecessarily damaged and/or destroyed by the current method of defining minor deviations as moderate ones, and placing too many basically ethical and competent psychologists on many years of probation with onerous terms and conditions for minor violations deemed to be moderate ones. The career of a single psychologist is a precious resource. As you well know, during the average career of a psychologist, a single one may treat hundreds of consumers. My understanding is that the board receives perhaps 1,000 complaints a year and only about 4% actually result in disciplinary actions being administered. So it may be perceived that relatively few
30 seconds.
affected in such a devastating way. But to unnecessarily punish even one psychologist so severely that they end or restrict their practices results in the loss of treatment opportunities for literally hundreds of consumers. This practice is harming psychologists and consumers more than helping either, and the number of damaged healers is accumulating with each passing year. I am handing over to Dr. Harp Sheets a sealed postage page envelope to mail that contains an illustration at request and no ex parte communications.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay, and you may begin at any time.
I'm a physician, and while currently retired, I continue to maintain an active license and have no history of disciplinary action against me. I would like to add to the previous comments because during the past 3+ decades of my associations with numerous psychologists, I've become familiar with a number of them who have been legitimately and unnecessarily traumatized by the overly punitive stance and operations of the department arm of the Board of Psychology. The word discipline in Latin means to teach. However, the current operation of the board to justify severe punishment for both major and minor deviations from the standard of care is a practice that must end. In my view, an apt analogy would be that a lot of complaints received by the board are the equivalent of driving 30 miles an hour in a 25 zone, with bystanders, complainants standing nearby getting splatters of mud on their clothes. The board is administering discipline to that driver or psychologist if they had run over the bystander with their car. This grossly disproportionate punishment relative to the deviation is unfair and unjust. Despite the fact that the current disciplinary guidelines state that they take mitigating circumstances into account in their decisions to administer disciplinary actions, it does not appear that this is actually the case. Draconian practices seem to continue unabated. I strongly encourage you to revise your current disciplinary guidelines to reflect letters of education to be used as a minimum disciplinary considered and not 5 years probation.
30 seconds.
Minor deviations from the standard of care. Given the current demand for competent psychologists relative to the undersupply of them, California consumers deserve this regulatory board to concentrate more on efforts to keep as many of these licensees as possible in the workforce and less effort on eliminating them unnecessarily. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further public commenters at the San Diego location?
No one further here.
Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to the Hercules location.
There is no one here for public comment.
Okay, and moving on to the Orange location.
There's no one here for the public comment.
Okay. And just to keep things clean, coming back to the Sacramento location, do we want to identify which members of the board are here at the Sacramento location?
Good afternoon. This is Dr. Shakonda Rogers, and I am here at the Sacramento location listed on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
This is Julie Nystrom, and I am also at the Sacramento location listed on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. And now we're going to take a few seconds to see if we have any online comments. It looks like we have one commenter, Albarz Bahador. I'm going to send you an invitation to unmute yourself here. Okay, Albarz, if you'd like to go ahead and speak. Okay, we're trying to unmute Albarz Bahador here. Allow me just a moment. Okay, and speaking to Albarz Bahador here, we don't seem to have you connected to audio. We'll give you another moment here, but in the meantime, if you'd like, you can try to enter your question or comment into the Q&A field down below. And in the meantime, I do not see any more requests for comment at this time. Shall we leave it open for just another moment as we try and
Yes.
get this? Okay.
Yes, please. And can you repeat the instructions for typing the question into the Q&A area? Just
Certainly. If you go down to the bottom of the WebEx window there, you'll see a Q&A button. If you open that up, there's a field where you can type in your question, and we'll be able to read that immediately. So if we can't get you connected to audio, maybe we can receive your question that way instead.
are there any other commenters, Mr. Moderator?
It does not appear so.
Okay. Okay. I think we can move on. If the question does come through, we can address it if it arrives.
Certainly.
But thank you for your help with that. On our agenda, number 3 is closed session. But at this time, we have no items for closed session. So we will continue right on to agenda item number 4, which is review and possible approval of the board's sunset report. Dr. Phillips is the chairperson of the Sunset Committee, so I'm going to hand it over to you, Dr. Phillips. But you're mute. You're muted.
I'm going to also call on John Burke to help me with this. Mr. Burke is our current interim Chief Executive Officer. So if we could proceed to the document itself, I'm going to suggest the following way for us to go through the document, and that is to go through it section by section rather than page by page. Otherwise, we will all be here until midnight, and I don't know that it's going to accomplish any more than what we were going to do in the first place. So why don't we go to the first section of, if you could scroll that up. I'm not sure who's, is it Mr. Gage that's going to?
It's Cindy that's updating the document here.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, this is John Burke, Interim Executive Officer of the Board of Psychology. I just wanted to say something regarding the version of the Sunset Report that is going to be shared on the screen here. There was the version which was shared with the meeting materials. The version which we've actually uploaded, which we'll be looking through, is 99% the same. If you'll recall, in the version that we sent out to the board members and to the public, there were a couple of comments which hadn't yet been addressed, I think 2 or 3. That was because the manager that would be able to help me answer those was out of the country. She returned. And so in this version, we have made those changes in track changes and we'll explain them when you see them. And this way, the page numbers aren't any different than what you've already seen. So if you reference a change or a comment you have on something, it's all the same. But I just wanted to explain this version has minor differences to what you've already seen and read and have thoughts on. So I just wanted to say that while we're trying to get the document to be readable on the version that's being shared with everyone. Thank you.
Apologies, this is Cindy that's trying to share the document. Are you guys not able to see it at all?
You can see the first page of a document.
Yeah.
It's just
on
Can you guys see it
On
where it
WebEx,
has
we
the
can-
Board of Psychology?
on the WebEx version that's being shared, I think we can just see the very, very top of half of Board of Psychology. On our laptops, I can see a little bit more. I can just see section 1 and the blue bit, and then that's everything I can see.
Okay, because yeah, it doesn't have the full page capability to show you the full page all at once.
Okay.
And then I have to go through each page separately. It's not a scrolling page. I just have to click through.
Cindy, it looks like it looks like it's magnified on the WebEx version, like it's focused and zoomed in on the top part of each page. Because as you toggle through each page, it seems to magnify like the header. Because we can see more on our laptops than what we can see on the well, it's just in here.
We can scroll down.
Right. Oh.
Sorry for everyone while we
Our bad.
work through this. Okay, we can see everything. We just have to scroll down. So
Thanks, Cindy.
Okay.
can everyone see that and do that if they're looking online? On the right, there's a scroll down feature within WebEx, so we won't be able to see the entire page at once, but we can scroll down and see it that way.
Would it work better to use the original document as opposed to trying to update the document
That's
now?
what was supposed to be in here, so that's what I'm trying to figure out. So give me just a second. I apologize for the delay. We were supposed to have a Word version I can edit, but this looks like it was a PDF that was uploaded.
Can I suggest we take a 5-minute break to allow staff to do this?
That would be great if we could do that.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. We will be back at 1:32. Let's make it 1:35 just to give a little more room.
And Mr. Payne, during a recess, we can turn off our cameras. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
And this is the moderator speaking. We're going to keep the meeting live here, but we're just taking a short technical break here. I will remain on the line here if anyone wants to continue to use the Q&A section, but the meeting has not adjourned. It's just taking a brief little break here. And this is the moderator speaking again. For anyone who's maybe just now joining us, the meeting is in session, but we're taking a short break here for a technical issue, and we will return shortly. This is the moderator. It looks like we're working on the issue. It may just take another moment, so please stay with us. The meeting is still in session. As soon as we have this technical issue resolved, we will resume. Okay, members of the board, it looks like we are ready to resume here. So if we could turn on our microphones and our cameras again.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ms. Whitney, can you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Kasuga? Cervantes? Fu?
Here.
Harbsheets?
Here.
Nystrom?
Here.
Phillips?
Here.
Frascati?
Here.
Rogers?
Here.
And Tate?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Quorum is established, and let's resume exactly where we were. Mr. Burke, Dr. Phillips.
Okay, if we could scroll down into section 1, please.
I have it scrolled on my screen. I have like a fit to viewer. Sounds like you guys might need to scroll down on your laptops though.
My screen is black.
In here.
Okay, let me. Can you see the agenda screen?
I can only see black.
I have different. Here's a public comment screen. Nobody can see that.
No, it says viewing Cynthia Whitney's application, but it's just black. Is yours
And
black?
mine's just what? No, mine's just white, but I see the same words you see.
Oh.
Are the agenda materials on the website, the Board of Psychology website?
Yes, I have, and they're on there, and I have them. I brought mine up because I had downloaded them.
Here's my suggestion for board members and members of the public alike. Go to the board's website, look under About Us, look under Meetings, and you will find today's meeting listed, and it'll have the agenda and the materials for the agenda. That way we can proceed on because it appears we're having technical difficulties scrolling on the screen. So I am now going to pull that up on my computer. There it is. Okay.
Are you guys able
So
to see the Word version now?
Not me. I'm not.
Whitney, we appreciate your efforts, but I don't want to spend much more time trying to deal with a technical problem. Let's go to section 1, background and description of the board and the regulated profession.
Oh, sorry. Just before we do go, there is a drop-down menu on the upper left hand, and you would pick Sunset Review, and you can see a document there.
Oh, yes. We had to pick Sunset Review. It came up. But it's kind of hard to read, so it's better to read like what you're saying, Dr. Phillips, off the website.
Yeah. So does anyone have any comments anywhere, of any board members have any comments in section 1?
Dr. Phillips, I have a comment on table 1A attendance, and that is in section 1, but it's not relative to the standing or ad hoc committees.
I had a question too.
Go ahead and make your comment, Dr. Harbsheets.
Okay. In the second paragraph where it says the board will also add research psychoanalysts and student research psychoanalysts to its regulated population. I wasn't aware of student research psychoanalysts.
Student research psychoanalysts are the psychoanalysts, the people that are training to be research psychoanalysts. So it's equivalent to a registration category.
Oh, so it's like, but it's not a psychological associate registration. It's
no. It's a totally different category. As we've been reminded in recent correspondence, research psychoanalysts are not psychologists.
Right. Okay, got it.
Okay. Any further comments in section 1 from board members? Then I'll take Mr. Fu's comments when we get. I'm just scrolling. Mr. Fu, did you want to give your comment on attendance?
Yes. So just a comment for staff is the board. It says that I did not attend the board meeting on July 9th, July 9th, 2020 and July 10th, 2020. And I just checked the board minutes from that meeting, and I was present at that meeting. So I'm hoping to have that corrected from no to yes for the board meeting date, July 9th, 2020 to July 10th, 2020.
I'm glad you said that, because I think there's one error on mine too, and I will go back and check. I wasn't sure how to handle.
If anyone sees an error or becomes aware of an error after this meeting or during the meeting, could you please let staff know and they'll correct the table accordingly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And the attendance goes on for a while, depending on the number of committees that people are on. And there's a lot of them. And then there's attendance for former board members. Late, great. Dr. Horn included. Not that she's passed away, just that she's not with the board anymore. So I'm scrolling. And then there's a list of officers. Any other comments on section 1? What page does section 1 end on?
I'm scrolling.
Ends on page 31.
Okay. So are there any more comments through page 31 of the document from board members? Hearing none. Mr. Gage, could you open the public comment section?
Certainly. We're going to open up the WebEx for public comment now on the Sunset Review item. If you would like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen, and dial-in users will press *3 to raise your hand. In mobile users, you'll look for those 3 little dots at the bottom of the screen until you can find the screen that has the raise hand button for you. Commenters will be given 2 minutes to speak, and I will give a 30-second warning. And first, we're going to check in with our in-person locations. So are there any members of the public who wish to make a comment at the Sacramento location?
There's no one.
Okay, thank you. Any members of the public at the Beverly Hills location?
No members of the public here at the Beverly Hills location.
Okay, and at the Reading location?
No members of the public here. Thank you.
Okay, at the San Diego location?
No members of the public here.
Thank you. And the Hercules location?
There are no members of the public here.
Okay, and finally at the Orange location?
There's no members of the public here.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to take a few seconds here to see if we have any online comments. It looks like we do have a couple, and we have Alborz Bahador. It doesn't look like we have you set up for audio as before, so go ahead and type us your question in the questions, the Q&A section. And I'm going to send an invitation to unmute to David Dibus. So hold on just 1 second. Okay, and it looks like you have a live mic, so Mr. Dibus, go ahead, please.
I don't know what a research psychoanalyst does. I don't know if a research psychoanalyst is still captive to Freud's theory. I don't know if a psychoanalyst might include Jung and Jung's legacy. And I'm fearful that there's research intended for psychedelic use in therapy, which I abhor. Those are my questions.
You're not, sorry.
I can respond to the question relative to research psychoanalysts. There are two types of people, or there's two categories of people that go through training at psychoanalytic institutes. There are licensed mental health professionals from the various licensing groups at MFTs, psychiatrists, psychologists, etc., that can become psychoanalysts through accredited institutes. And then there are research psychoanalysts. Historically, research psychoanalysts have been regulated under the Medical Board of California, but the legislature has recently made the decision to move research psychoanalysts under the Board of Psychology as they perform a therapeutic function. It seemed like a better match than under the Medical Board. And the number of registrants they have under that category are so small that it was, I think, difficult for the Medical Board to give full attention to research psychoanalysts. So they're now under the Board of Psychology as of January 1st, 2025. A research psychoanalyst is an individual who goes through the full psychoanalytic training that a licensed mental health professional would be, but they have an advanced degree in another field. The primary purpose or primary function of a research psychoanalyst is to conduct research, to teach, to write, to supervise people, and then they are also allowed to do a certain amount of therapy. And there's some question as to how much and whether it should be qualitative or quantitative, but we'll set that aside for the moment. So they're not licensed mental health professionals, but they are recognized as psychoanalysts. And student research psychoanalysts are people that are studying to be research psychoanalysts. They go through the full psychoanalytic training. They're highly qualified in the area of psychoanalysis. And there are some other areas in which the Research Psychoanalyst Committee is considering how to bring people up to speed, perhaps on some of the requirements that other licensed mental health professionals have. So hopefully that gives you a general idea of who research psychoanalysts are. I think I want to say that there are about 100 research psychoanalysts in the state of California. So it's not a large group of people. A lot of them are academicians, major writers, and their psychoanalytic theory varies depending on their personal predilections and the training that they've received. They primarily come from some of the more traditional psychoanalytic institutes. I'm not aware of whether there are research psychoanalysts in the Jungian institutes, but I have no reason to believe that there's not. So, and there are psychoanalytic institutes all across the state of California and all across the country. So hopefully that gives you a sense of who the research psychoanalysts are, and they will now, as of January 1st, be regulated by the Board of Psychology.
And I'm going to say I sent Mr. Debus another request to unmute. I didn't mean to mute him during that time, but he was online for this discussion. And go ahead, Mr. Debus.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Thank you very much. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that at the C.G. Jung Institute and Clinic in Los Angeles or anything like it. And I don't know about the research into psychedelics. It may be that that's has nothing to do with psychoanalytic heritage and training.
I don't think there's any particular relationship between research psychoanalysts and research into psychedelics. I think those are two unrelated subjects. There may be research psychoanalysts that are interested in that, but I think there's a lot of mixed feelings in the field relative to the administration of psychedelics for therapeutic purposes. But I don't want to weigh into that right now because it's not really relevant to our discussion of the Sunset Review report.
And I see Mr.
Thank you very much for your question.
Mr. Debus, it looks like you've raised your hand again after muting yourself. I'm going to unmute you for a brief moment here. We have about 15 seconds left. Actually, it looks like you may have gone away. I'm just going to take a quick second and see if you're still on my list here. Okay, it looks like he's put his hand down, and a quick check to see if we have any more hands raised, and that would appear to be all. Shall I go ahead and close the public comment section?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Is there any other further board comment? Okay, then let's proceed to section 2. That would start on the bottom of page 31. I did have one comment on this section. It's on item number 10, where it says, using table 3, expenditures by program component, describe the amounts and percentages of expenditures by program component. And it says provide a breakdown. And then there's a chart after that. That chart does not contain percentages that I can see. So Mr. Burke or someone else, perhaps you can illuminate me as to whether percentages are required or not.
If it's asked for, we can make sure we can add percentages. Absolutely, if that's asked for there.
I think, do they provide this chart or do we create this chart?
The chart is provided on the template, so we filled out the template that was provided.
So the template didn't include percentages?
No, it didn't.
Okay, well then let's not worry about it.
Okay.
Percentages later, they can ask for percentages later. And we're happy to provide them. Are there any other comments on section number 2, which relates to fiscal and staff? What page does it end on, Mr. Burke?
37.
That's a long one.
It ends on 37, partway through 37.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments from the board? And since I'm looking at the PDF document, I can't look back and forth to the screen, so don't put your hands up, just jump in there. Okay, is there any public comment on section number 2? Mr. Gage, could you open up public comment again?
Certainly. We're going to open up WebEx now for public comment on this. And if you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. And dial-in users, you can press the *3 to raise your hand. And mobile users, go down to the bottom to those 3 little dots until you find the screen with the raise hand button. You'll have 2 minutes to speak, and I'll give a 30-second warning. And first, we'll check in with our in-person locations. Or in the interest of time, I'll just ask whether there's any further public comment from our physical locations. Okay, hearing none, it sounds like we have no members of the public at our physical locations, so let me take a few seconds to see if we have any online comments. Seeing no online requests for comment, shall we close the comments section?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
The next section is section 3, licensing program. Do any board members have comments on section 3 of the report?
Dr. Phillips, this is...
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Dr. Phillips, this is Dr. Rogers. I have a question on item number 22 on page 45. The question is about no longer interested notifications to the DOJ. I was just curious about what that is. I'd not seen that before.
You said this is item number 70 or 22?
Yes.
Do you know what page that's on?
It's on page
It's
45.
on page 45.
Great.
And
Thank
the
you.
question is, does the board send no longer interested notifications to DOJ on a regular and ongoing basis. Wasn't sure what that was.
That would be, we don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Burke or Ms. Chung, is there, do not know, no longer interested means that a person no longer has an active license. They may be retired. They may have surrendered their license. There could be a variety of reasons that they're not. So we don't need them to continue to check on that. Would that be correct, Mr. Burke? Or Ms. Chung?
Dr. Phillips, this is Ms.
Yes.
Chung. Thank you. Yes, that's a very good snapshot description of that. So we are actually required by the Department of Justice to notify them if we're no longer tracking a person because they're no longer our licensees or applicants. I hope that helps, Dr. Rogers. Thank you so much.
I noticed there's a few staff comments here too. Are there any other board comments before we go to the staff comments that are in the margins? Okay, Mr. Burke, could you take us through the comments that show on the document in blue and red relative to section number 3?
Yes, the first one is on page 37, and that is where we decided it's the very first question, section 16. What are the board's performance targets, expectations for the licensing program? We thought, wouldn't it be good if we put that in chart form just to show a decline over the last 4 fiscal years, because there has been one. And so we input that chart. So that's all that's in the new version, and you can see that in the track changes there. So that's it. It was just us changing the way that we presented the information.
Great. And there is one more additional comment. Try to scroll to it. I believe it's on page 42.
Yes, that was, we wanted to have that section, we wanted to reword it to provide a bit more information, and that was something we were able to do in this version. So it was updated, so you can see in the underlined red on the very bottom of page 42, you can see there's just a bit more information regarding the out-of-state process, out-of-state applicant process.
Right. Can we remove those comments now then?
Yes, we can, as we go through, and we will, obviously, when we submit the document.
Okie dokie.
I have a question though. So Mr. Burke, where it talks about 2914 requires each applicant to possess a doctoral degree in psychology. Well, 2914 is more specific. So I'm just concerned that, because if we look at just a doctoral degree in psychology and the regulation actually says clinical, it goes on very specific, I'm just concerned this is misleading.
No, you're absolutely correct. We thought so too, and so in the version which we updated in the which is the underlined version that we're currently sharing,
okay.
we have added with the field of specialization in clinical counseling, school consulting, forensic, industrial organizational psychology. But yeah, it was something we caught subsequent to sharing the document. So yes, thank you very much for your comment.
Oh yeah, I can't really read that. It's blurry on my screen, so I'm following along from what we were saying. Sorry. I see you did that.
No problem.
Okay.
Apologies.
Any more board comments on section number 3? Mr. Gage, could you please open this up for public comment?
Certainly. We're going to open up WebEx now for public comment on this item. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen, and dial-in users will press *3 to raise your hand. Mobile users will go to the little dots at the bottom of the screen until you find the screen with the raise hand button. You'll be given 2 minutes to speak, and I will give a 30-second warning. We'll check in with our in-person locations first. In the interest of time, if the members would now just speak up whether they have anybody that would like to come forward and speak. Okay, hearing none, we have no public members at our physical locations, so I will now look to see if we have any online requests. And seeing none, shall I close the public comment section?
Yes, please.
Thank
you. Can I ask one more
Okay, the
question?
next section we will be looking at starts at page 51.
Oh,
I'm sorry, did somebody have a...
Dr. Phillips, can I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
On page 43, where it says out of country, and where it talks in the second line, it says that they shall demonstrate to the satisfaction of the board that they possess this equivalent doctoral degree. Do you feel that the words "to the satisfaction of the board" supports the idea that they might have an evaluation by a foreign credential evaluation service, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that the board is satisfied?
Ms. Chung, maybe you'd be the best one to respond to this particular question.
Raji, thanks for the question. This is Ms. Chung. I believe if I remember correctly, the statute did require applicants to submit any or to demonstrate to the board that they meet the qualifications, or like demonstrate what they are needed to support their application materials. So I believe this might be sufficient, but if you're seeing any additional suggestion edits, please feel free to share with us.
Oh yeah, thank you. I just wanted to be sure that we felt it was sufficient, since we see that that does become an issue from time to time. But if you feel it's sufficient, that's fine with me.
It appears sufficient to me. Does anybody else have a further opinion on it? Hearing none.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, why don't we go then to section 4, which starts the enforcement program. That starts on page 50, I believe.
Yeah, 51. Unless it's changed.
Okay, thank you. Are there any board comments on section 4 enforcement program? I'm not hearing any comments.
I have one little
Yes.
explanation on page, in the version that was shared, page 52. The question 33 is highlighted. It doesn't need to be. That was an internal. That was not a version that should have been shared. So that when we submit this to the legislature, we won't obviously have this section highlighted. It was kind of an internal reminder we had. It just wasn't taken off prior to us sharing the document. Wanted to explain that. Thank you.
Appreciate the explanation.
I just have a formatting question. You know, we have the chart that starts table 9, enforcement statistics, and then that continues. It starts on page 53 and continues on to 54. Could you also repeat the headings when the chart continues? You know, for the headings, meaning the year, you know, fiscal year 21, 22, 22, just so that every time the chart continues, people can see what year we're talking about. Is that okay?
I can speak to that. So it's a pre-populated chart in the document already.
Oh.
Kind of like the attendance ones above, and it won't let you manipulate a lot of things on it. I can try, but I can't guarantee that we can do that.
Oh, okay.
But I can
All-
make a note to play with it offline.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whitney. Any other comments on section 4 from board members? Hearing none, why don't we go ahead and open up public comment, Mr. Gage, if you'd be so kind.
We will open up WebEx now for public comment. And if you'd like to comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. And dial-in users press *3. Mobile users go down to the bottom to the little buttons to select the page with that button on it. You'll be given 2 minutes to speak, and I'll give a 30-second warning. If any of the in-person locations have any public commenters, please say so now. And hearing none, we'll move to our online comments. And I see no new online requests. Shall I close the comment section?
Please.
Thank you.
Okay, we are next going to section 5, which starts on page 64, public information policies. Do any board members have comments on section number 5? Hearing none, Mr. Gage, could you please open up public comment for section number 5?
We're opening up WebEx now for public comment on section 5. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users press *3, and mobile users select it through the three dots at the bottom. Commenters will be given 2 minutes to speak, and I'll give a 30-second warning. At our in-person locations, please speak up if there are any public members wishing to speak. And hearing none, I'll take a few seconds to see if we have any online comments. Seeing no online comments, shall I close this section?
Please.
Thank you.
Okay, section number 6 is online practice issues, starting at the on this document that I'm looking at, which is the document we originally received, would be on the very bottom of section 60, page 65. Yeah. It's not a very long section. Do any board members have any comments on section number 6? Hearing none.
Dr. Phillips, sorry to slow your roll on this one. Do we want to hint at the fact that this is an issue that the Enforcement Committee is working to update both statutory and, proposing updates to statutory language and regulations? Recognizing that the last line says the board would need statutory authority to regulate appropriate business entities, et cetera. Would that be helpful to mention to them that this is an issue that the board is actively looking into and continues to evolve in support of the evolution of the profession?
I like it. What do you think, Mr. Burke?
Yes, we will make that. We can make that change. We can make sure that's included.
Appreciate it.
And for the record, we haven't made any of those changes yet. And the full board hasn't made any decisions around those changes yet, but it's something that I think the Enforcement Committee hopes to bring to the full board in 2025.
Can we go to public comment on section number 6, online practice issues?
Open up WebEx for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users will press *3 to raise your hand. Mobile users find those little dots at the bottom of the screen to find the right screen for you. Commenters will be given 2 minutes to speak, and I will give a 30-second warning. Going to check with our in-person locations first. If anybody at our physical locations has a public commenter, please say so now. Hearing none, I'll take a few seconds here just to see if we have any online requests. And seeing none, shall I close the session?
Please. We're moving on to section number 7, workforce development and job creation, which starts on page 66, near the middle of the page. Do any board members have comments on section number 7? Hearing none, then we go to public comment.
Let's open up WebEx now for public comment. And I should mention that at the end of that last session, it looks like Dr. Kramer did raise his hand. So in a moment, I will start with him. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users will press *3 to raise your hand, and mobile users will go to the little ellipses for the right screen. Commenters will be given 2 minutes to speak, and I will give a 30-second warning. Are there any public members at our in-person locations? If so, say so now, please. And hearing none, we're going to see if we have any online comments. And first we see Dr. Kramer, and I'm going to send you a request to unmute.
If I understand correctly, this is a comment on section 6.
I believe so.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Kramer, go ahead, please.
I just had a question. If somebody could give me a newspaper headline, quick summary of the online practice issues, because I cannot read anything on my screen and I have no idea what those issues were. I understand it's a short section. Is there a simple, couple sentences somebody could share with me?
Primary, I'd be happy to do that. This is Dr. Phillips. The primary issue that we highlighted there was, which is an issue that we cannot fully address as a board, might require legislative action, was, I don't know if you read about this in the newspaper, but one of the larger telehealth provider services terminated a number of therapists on the site. They did so overnight. So people were essentially frozen out of their email accounts, no longer had contact information for their clients nor access to the clients. What this meant was that the therapy with the providers was being terminated without an opportunity to help them transition to another provider or to provide closure, which obviously puts providers in a very compromised position. And that's one of the things that we're highlighting here, that licensees were reportedly unable to contact their clients and complete a proper termination of service as required by law and ethics. So that was one issue we talked about. We're also, as Mr. Fu pointed out, working on topics related to telepsychology right now in the Enforcement Committee, and we'll be bringing recommendations back to the full board probably in 2025. I hope that helps clarify.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And Dr. Kramer, you have about 1.5 minutes left. Do you wish to use any more of your time?
No, thank you.
Okay, now we're taking public comment on section 7, workforce development and job creation.
Okay, so we're going to open up WebEx comment for section 7 here. So if you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users press *3 to raise your hand, and mobile users go to the bottom little dots and you'll find the screen that you need. Commenters will be given 2 minutes to speak, and I will give a 30-second warning. We'll check in with our physical locations first. If you have any public commenters at the physical locations, please say so now. And hearing none, I'm going to go to our online requests and see if we have any waiting. And seeing no online requests, shall I close this section?
Yes, please. Section 8 is another relatively brief section on current issues. It's a response to a very specific question, which is to describe how the board is participating in the development of online application and payment capability and other secondary IT issues affecting the board. Are there any comments from board members on section number 8? Hearing none.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Um,
Dr. Phillips. Did you want on on number 64, where we talk about the board is rolling out online applications, enabling on somewhere since we have such a large number of say renewals and people using the online system, is this the place to indicate, like, say, for example, the 90% of renewals that come through on the online system?
That would make sense to me. Mr. Burke, perhaps you could respond to that, or Ms. Chung, I guess.
Yes, we can add in this section a sentence about, or two, or however much is necessary to talk about how much utilization the BREEZE system gets as a ratio of applications and renewals. And yes, that's something we can add.
Thanks.
I think it would be good. It'd be nice for the listeners to know that we are actively using BREEZE and trying to get up to full capacity as quickly as the BREEZE system seems to allow us to do.
Yes, we can do that. Thank you.
Does that answer your
Yes.
concern?
It does. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Harpsheets. Okay, so any other board comment on section number 8? Excuse the ambulances. My office is very close to Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles, and there's a lot of emergencies that go past my office. Any other board comment on 8? Seeing none, can we open up for public comment, Mr. Gage?
Okay, we're going to open up for public comment on section 8 here. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users press *3, and mobile users look for the red or the little dots at the bottom of the screen. Commenters will be given 2 minutes to speak, and I will give a 30-second warning. At our in-person locations, please speak up if you have any public commenters. And hearing none, we'll take a few seconds here to check our online requests. And seeing none, shall I close the session?
Please. Okay, we are moving to section number 9, board action and response to prior sunset issues, which in the actual bookmarks is actually said it's section 10, which is confusing. But whatever the case may be, section 9, board action and responses to prior sunset issues. Just so that people are aware, these are the responses that we have given in the past. So we are not able to alter these responses. These were given 4 years ago or 5 years ago when we went through sunset review. However, there are updates given, and in the document that I'm looking at, the updates are highlighted in yellow. So are there any board comments on those updates? Because that is really the only thing we're considering here, which has confused me the entire time I've been on the board, and this is I think my third sunset review. Okay. Hearing no board comments on number 9, board action responses.
I have one, Dr. Phillips. It relates to issue number 2, which is the update. There was a comment there, which we still had to address at the staff level. If you recall, there were some questions. It became very pertinent during the COVID-19 pandemic regarding waiver authority in a declared state, federal, and local emergency. And the board did actually develop some language which we were considering trying to make statutory change that would allow us in these situations to have this authority. However, we were able to work so well with DCA and the administration that really we were able to get pretty much all the waivers that we needed and requested through existing processes. And so the changes that we were thinking of doing independently ourselves really didn't prove ultimately to be necessary. So we didn't move forward with doing that. So I drafted a new response which reads, update. The COVID-19 pandemic state of emergency was terminated by Governor Newsom in February 2023. The board has no updates to this item at this time, as the board was able to work with DCA and the administration to be granted any necessary waivers without a statutory change. That's the update that I would propose be dropped in for issue number 2.
That sounds excellent. Any comments on Mr. Burke's point or any of the remainder of section number 9? Mr. Fu?
Yes, Dr. Phillips, on page 76 of 97, as it relates to the use of two-person committees, I would be curious if perhaps we could list some of the topics that we've discussed in these two-persons committee and then the associated board action from them, so that it's clear to folks that the discussion of the committee does come to the full board. I mean, it says that here, obviously, but given the continuing conversation and public comments we receive about the use of two-person committees, might it be helpful to list a couple things that have emerged from these two-person committees, which have then been fully vetted in public and amongst all the board members and voted upon by board members in compliance with the Open Meetings Act?
So your suggestion is we add additional committee names of the ad hoc committees?
I'm so sorry.
And also give examples of areas in which, or just topics which have been brought back to the board for full action.
Correct.
I actually have sat on a couple of these two-person committees, and I know that all we do at those committees when we take action is to make a recommendation to the board, and the board then either acts on a recommendation or does something different. So what do you think, Mr. Burke? Would you be open to giving a couple of examples of items that have been brought back to the full board?
Absolutely. I can add research psychoanalysts. We also had the ad hoc fee committee initially, as well as the telepsychology committee and its consideration of side pack language. Those are all good examples of major topics where really there was just wordsmithing done between staff and a few board members, and then it was presented to the full board, and we had a quite significant public comment at a full board meeting. Those are the ones that immediately sprang to mind. But yes, we can list them, the committees and the topics, no problem.
It may be a function of age, Mr. Burke, but your memory is really good. So
thank you.
Do that. That would be much appreciated.
And thank you, Mr. Burke. I just think that given the more that we can showcase what has been done, and it helps demystify our use of two-person committees, both in the interest of, in the case of the enforcement committee, the protection of staff who provide sensitive information, and then with the other topics, as you said, wordsmithing that gets done and can be a bit arduous and tedious for everyone to sit through. So.
And with a two-person committee, we can be a little bit more nimble in terms of scheduling so that we can react to issues as they come up much more quickly. But everything comes back to the board.
Yes. And Dr. Phillips, if I may, the second item I had a question about was related to foreign degree evaluations. In the update, I'm so sorry. This is
the next one, issue 4?
Correct.
Okay.
And this is on page 77, highlighted below. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, before we get there, can I just make a grammatical change to the paragraph right above that? It's
sure.
The update says the two-person committees always present, okay, never mind. Sorry, I read it wrong. Forget it, sorry. Okay,
Yeah, you don't want to tread on Dr. Rogers' territory.
yeah,
He's our resident grammarian.
yeah. I was reading it wrong, sorry. Okay, Mr. Fu, sorry. Yeah.
No worries, Dr. Habichi.
It's a lot to read.
Pages to go, friends. So just on this piece here, I do believe that in conversations for the research psychoanalyst, for the, gosh, I'm getting all of them. Yeah, for our research psychoanalyst conversation, there were conversations as it relates to foreign credential evaluation services and foreign degrees. And do we want to make a note here that as a part of the medical board's transfer of that category, that this is something that the board is also looking into?
Similar considerations arise and will be addressed by the board.
Exactly, so we can just head that off too.
Okay. How do you feel about that, Mr. Burke?
Yes, we will add that. Thank you.
Thank you, that's much appreciated. Did you have further comments on this section?
I'm done, thank you.
And does anyone else have comments on this section? Okay, hearing no further comments from the board members, can we open it up to public comment?
We are opening up WebEx for public comment on this item. So if you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users will press *3 to raise your hand, and mobile users will select the three little dots to go to the correct page. Commenters will be given 2 minutes to speak, and I will give a 30-second warning. Are there any public commenters at our in-person locations? And hearing none, we'll take a few seconds to see if we have any online requests. And seeing none online, shall I close the session?
Please, that'd be appreciated. Okay, so the next section, now I've got the numbering. Okay. I think it should be section number 10. And I don't see
Page 95.
Thank you very much. Okay, hang on. Okay, new issues. These are issues that are going to be presented to us by the committees and the analysts. We have not yet received those issues. Can you explain that process a little bit, Mr. Burke?
Yes, I will. So Section 10 new issues. This is an opportunity for us, the board, to inform the legislative committees of various problems that we see and our proposed solutions. So listed under this new issues section is and these are all things the board has already considered and voted on. So establishing psychotherapist client privilege exception for board investigations, qualification of a foreign degree, statutory change for the change of supervisor fee for the psych testing technicians, the already approved enforcement provisions from the enforcement committee's review that the board has already considered, the professional corporations language, and the changes that were voted on last meeting relating to research psychoanalysts. We haven't yet received a word of any new issues raised by the legislative committees themselves. What happens is we will submit this report to them. It's our report to them. They will read it, go over it very carefully, and then they will submit additional questions, which we will then get to consider, answer, and the board will look at again in February, and then we'll send those back to the committees, and then we will have the sunset hearing itself will be scheduled when the board president, most likely vice president, and the interim executive officer or executive officer will be before the Senate committee itself and will be asked questions and asked to provide testimony. So that's the process and what this section is. that answer the question?
Yes, it sure does.
Okay, so I just wanted to make it clear to the members of the public that this is a board report. So just because we're asking, for instance, for things which we know, for instance, there may be opposition to some of these, or historically there has been. I'm thinking of the psychotherapist client privilege provision, but this is us once again just presenting to the committees where we see an issue and what we would recommend the changes would be. There is no guarantee whatsoever that these will ultimately be in the sunset bill, and obviously between now and that bill being introduced, there's a lot that can happen in terms of whether the committees want to include the language or not in our sunset bill. I just wanted to say that in case, because this isn't really the time to relitigate any of these matters. It's just whether we want them in our report or not. Just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board comments on section number 10? Hearing none, can we open it up for public comment?
We're opening up the WebEx for public comment on this item. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users press *3 to raise your hand, and mobile users go to the screen with the raise hand button. Commenters will be given 2 minutes to speak, and I will give a 30-second warning. At any of our physical locations, are there any public speakers looking to comment? And hearing none, I'll take a few seconds. It looks like we do have an online request from Tyler Rind. And hang on just a second, Tyler, and I will send you a request to unmute.
All right, I think you can hear me now. Good afternoon. I'm Tyler Rindy with the California Psychological Association. Definitely understand that this is for consideration and stuff, but the California Psychological Association has significant concerns about the proposal for an exception on the psychotherapist patient privilege. We've shared this previously. I know that this has been a discussion for the last couple of years, and some has been raised by my colleague, Dr. Elizabeth Winkleman. So just want to, remind the board about our concerns on, the potential loss of patient confidence and confidentiality of psychotherapy, the detrimental impact that it could have on psychotherapist note-taking, and then also that it could have a potential chilling effect on patient complaints, if that their notes could end up being viewed by the board without the consent of the patient. So understand that this is a starting point for the discussion, but just wanted to remind the board about our position on this. Thank you.
That's very much appreciated. I do want to make one clarification, and I want to be very, very clear about this. The California Psychological Association continues to say that they were not invited to the child custody stakeholder meeting out of which this idea arose. I was present when Dr. Joe Linder-Crow was invited informally during a break in a meeting, and Dr. Joe Linder-Crow informed us she had absolutely no interest in being present at the child custody shareholder action. And every time the subject comes up, California Psychological Association says they were not invited to the child custody stakeholder meeting. And frankly, I'm going to get angrier and angrier the more often it's brought up, because it's not true, because we do have staff members that know that, a board member, at least one board member that knows that, and a stakeholder who's offered to write a letter on our behalf as it relates to that. So I would really appreciate it if you could omit that from further letters and comments on the subject of the psychotherapist patient privilege, because I think it is unfair to the board to represent that you were not invited. And that's the end of my statement on that subject. Okay. Is there any further public comment on section number 10?
Seeing no further public comment on this item, shall I close the session?
Yes, please. Section number 11 is the attachments. Some of the attachments I don't think will lead to much in the way of comments. So I'm going to group them together and see if anybody has any comments on attachment A, B, C, or D.
Dr. Phillips, just with regard to the Administrative Procedure Manual attachment, I believe we learned from our DCA liaison at our last in-person board meeting that the reimbursement rates for the state would be aligning with federal IRS rates, and so the query or the request of staff would be that that is somehow notated in the Administrative Procedure Manual so that the committee is should the committee members make it that far into detail of the Administrative Procedural Manual on reimbursement rates, that at least that it's updated and reflective of the changes that the state is making in terms of alignment with federal rates.
What kind of process do we go through, Mr. Burke, if we want to make that happen?
In order to update the Administrative Procedures Manual, I believe historically I think that's been updated at the staff level, but then presented to the board for final ratification. So we could maybe make a note on that this needs to be updated. And I think there's a date on the Administrative Procedural Manual as when it was last. So that's certainly something we will look at the whole document and update it and bring it to the board at a future time. But I don't think it's something we can just make edits to and submit now, between now and when we submit the Sunset Review report.
Appreciate that clarification, Mr. Burke. Section 11, attachments A, B, C, or D. Any further board comments? Is there any public comment on A, B, C, D attachments?
We're opening up WebEx now for public comment on this item. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users will press *3 to raise your hand, and mobile users will go to the dots at the bottom of the screen. Commenters will be given 2 minutes to speak, and I will give a 30-second warning. Are there any public commenters at any of our physical locations? Hearing none, we'll take a few seconds to see if we have any requests on our online. Seeing no online requests, shall I close the session?
Yes, please. Okay, so the final attachment, I believe, for some reason my scrolling is not working here very well. I think the final attachment is statutory language for desired changes, which is 11E. I think probably the easiest way for us to go through that would be to ask, in general, are there comments from the board as it relates to the statutory language for desired changes? All of which I think we previously reviewed as board. Hearing no board comment, is there any public comment on the statutory changes listed under section 11E? I believe there's, remember how many of those documents? I think there's 5.
Okay, we're opening up.
6.
Okay, we'll open up the WebEx now for public comment on these attachments. If you would like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users press *3, and mobile users go to the correct page. Commenters will be given 2 minutes to speak, and I will give a 30-second warning. Are there any public commenters at any of our physical locations? And hearing none, we'll take a few seconds to look for online requests. Seeing no online requests, shall I go ahead and close this session?
Please. Is there any further discussion as it relates to, among board members, as to the entirety of the Sunset Review report? I personally would like to just say I really appreciate all the hard work that staff has done to create this draft report. And I think we need some kind of motion. And staff also includes our able legal counsel, Mr. Payne. I'm not sure if Mr. Singh was involved in it, but I'm sure if he was a good contributor. Is there any other comments from board members?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the sunset report.
I second. This is Mr. Fu.
So that's a motion by Ms. Tate, or Dr. Tate, excuse me. I'm getting confused between public and licensed members. Dr. Tate, and seconded by Mr. Fu to approve the sunset report. Any discussion by board members?
I have a question. If we approve this motion, does that mean that there can be no modifications to it? Like that might be discussed at the February meeting, or would that be too late?
Mr. Burke?
Yes, that would be. Yes, this is John Burke, Interim Executive Officer. Yes, that would be too late. This is due to the legislature on January the 6th, 2025. And so the changes that have been discussed now, which are, fairly, I think it's usually just wordsmithing. I don't think there's been any majorly significant documents. Those changes will be made now over the weekend. The document will be saved as a PDF. It will be sent to DCA's print shop because I think one copy needs to go to DCA's executive office. Print copy 4, possibly 5, I'll check, need to be sent to the legislature. And that needs to happen this coming Monday in order for us to be able to make the deadline for the print version. Obviously, I'll send the PDFs over as well ahead of that deadline.
Okay.
So that's not it. But we can we can clarify if we find anything is wrong or there's big changes that we would need to make. We could certainly make the legislature aware from the point that as soon as we send this off, it sort of becomes a dialogue between the board and the legislative committees. So we can clarify anything that we need to at that time.
Okay, thank you for that.
And it obviously will include the changes we've made in the discussion today, which are, I think, fairly clerical and it's not that they're not substantive, but they're not major change in substance. They're just some clarifications. Any further board discussion about the motion? Any public comment on the motion to approve the Sunset Review Report?
We're opening up WebEx now for public comment on the motion to approve the Sunset Report. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users press *3, and mobile users go to the 3 dots at the bottom of the screen. Commenters will be given 2 minutes to speak, and I will give a 30-second warning. Are there any public commenters at any of our physical locations? And hearing none, I will go to our online requests, and seeing none there, shall I close this session?
Yes, please. Ms. Whitney, I believe you're calling the roll. I've forgotten.
That is correct. Kasuga?
Okay. Call the roll.
Okay, Kasuga. Cervantes. Fu.
Aye.
Harbsheets.
Aye.
Nystrom.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Riscate.
Aye.
Rogers.
Aye.
And Tate.
Aye.
Thank you.
Well, I think that concludes my part of the agenda. So I will turn it
Absolutely.
over to Dr. Tate.
Thank you to everyone for that document. I know it took a lot of minds. So thank you for getting us through that. And thanks to you, Dr. Phillips and Mr. Burke, for walking us through it. Before we adjourn for the afternoon, I'd like to have Mr. Polk let us know how much CPD credit was earned for attending today.
Thank you for
Mr.
attending
Pope?
the board meeting today. Thank you for attending the board meeting today. For attending the full duration of today's meeting, you will receive 2 hours under CPD category number 1, attendance at a Board of Psychology meeting. For your records, please note today's date as December 20th, 2024, the name of today's meeting, which is board meeting, and 2 hours for your records. For attendees who joined by phone and called the U.S. toll phone number, please send an email to bopce@dca.ca.gov. Again, that is bopce@dca.ca.gov with your name, license number, and the phone number of the phone you called in from. Attendees who signed in using a computer or mobile device from the WebEx link, your attendance is automatically documented and no further information is necessary. For attendees who are in person to physical locations, please sign out before leaving today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Polk. I appreciate that, letting everyone know their CPD credit. And to everyone, thank you for joining us today. I hope everyone has an enjoyable holiday season and a happy new year. And this meeting is officially adjourned.
Thank you.